Allegations of widespread malpractice in the NEET undergraduate 2024 examination have now sparked outrage amongst political parties who are consistently demanding a thorough investigation in the matter. The Congress has repeatedly condemned the manipulation of the NEET results and have noted the devastating effects of such practices. They've highlighted the discrepancies in the results and have also compared them to previous years, wherein only a few students had achieved a near perfect score. To speak on this, let me quickly bring in live Vivek Tanka, Senior Congress leader and Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament. Vivek Tanka, thank you very much for being with us today to speak on this big story, a story that, of course, the Supreme Court has also taken cognizance of today. What do you make of the order that came out from the Honorable Court today seeking grace marks to be scrapped to 1,563 students and a new examination to be held for them if they deem fit?
Today, I think this is the first step in the right direction. This should have happened.
Right direction. This should have happened weeks ago. It is the intransigent attitude of the NTA which prevented this. They were defending an indefendable position. But the point is, this is not the end of the manipulation. If you recollect, 67 people had perfect scores, and out of which I believe only 44 get covered in this batch of 1563. This batch of grace marks students cover only 44 of the 67. Now what happens to the remaining? There are more than 20-25 students still there. So a larger inquiry also is needed. Never before did you have more than 1, 2 or 3 students getting a perfect score. This time it was 67. Now you subtract 44, so it still remains, you still have about 27 or 26, whatever. So what I'm trying to say is that there are too many allegations which are being heard left, right and center. There are police reports in different states. I think it's high time an impartial inquiry is instituted to find out. Otherwise, the students would lose trust in the country and trust in the examination system. I mean, I am the one who fought the Vyapam case. I recollect. It took me 1.5 years to get a CBI inquiry with the help of the activists. So I know how cheating takes place or how defrauding takes place in these examinations. Unless the official machinery is part of it, unless it has the blessings of the people who matter, all this cannot happen. And I would like to know why these grace marks were given, under what formula it was given, what is the system of these grace marks, who took the decision to give the grace marks, and why those guys have not been punished so far. And I believe a Supreme Court in one of the past judgments has also said that grace marks cannot be awarded in medical and engineering cases. So in totality, I feel it's a big scam. They are trying to cover up the scam by polishing off one part. But by withdrawing one part, the larger issue of trust of the students still remains.
So what is your main demand now? Are you demanding a CBI inquiry? Are you demanding an SIT to be formed to look into this particular case, the allegation of paper leak? Do you demand a Re-NEET, the entire examination to be held again? What is your main demand now, Vivek Tanka?
Before I go to a demand of Re-NEET, which is a huge thing, and I know it puts the whole machinery into great inconvenience, and there are lakhs of students, 2.4 million students who get impacted. They should have an inquiry, a dispassionate inquiry, to see the magnitude of the unfair methods employed. You know, unless we see the magnitude, this was one magnitude which has been dealt with. But what about the other magnitudes? Now, there is nobody who is telling us about other magnitudes. There are other students also who have benefited. If the magnitude is too big and too large, then it calls for a re-examination. But that magnitude can only be judged by an impartial inquiry by somebody who is not involved in the examination system. Here the review was done by the same committee which is presided over the head of the NTA, who himself is responsible for what has happened. So a person responsible for this huge conundrum is the person investigating his own mistake. So what do you expect from that? So I feel the government will have to be fair to the students of this country, institute an impartial, time-bound inquiry, and let's have the report in week or 10 days, and then let the government or the Supreme Court decide the future course of action.
Okay. Your Congress president also today, in fact, Mallikarjun Kharge, has put out a tweet on the issue. He's, pinned the blame on the Modi government. Why do you believe the government is to blame for this controversy?
Because government controls the NTA. The NTA people who are appointed who run the NTA are all government nominees. And if these are people selected by you specially to be put in those positions, one starts getting suspicious that this is a part of a larger design for us to start a new process of recruitment. I saw that in Vyapam. It was nothing but a new process of recruitment by the government of its favorites. And the same people who head different public service commissions, the chairman of NTA today is a person who was chairman of UPSC earlier, though he didn't disclose that when he did the inquiry. He was chairman of Chhattisgarh Service Commission. He was chairman of Madhya Pradesh Service Commission. Are you trying to say that we don't have capable people in India who can serve these positions?
Okay. The Education Minister has spoken out today, Dharmendra Pradhan, who of course in fact took charge this morning itself. Dharmendra Pradhan has said that there is no proof of a leak just yet. He also said that there has been no wrongdoing by the NTA. He said though that whatever the Supreme Court says will be obeyed and will be respected.
I have 2 points here. Once he says there is no proof, has there been an investigation for you to say there is no proof? No proof can only come if there has been a fair and transparent investigation by trusted people. Number 2, if there is no wrongdoing, then why do you cancel this exam, this grace marks of 1,563 students? I mean, this is a self-contradictory statement of the Education Minister. I have seen ministers giving such statements all the time, but when it comes to being tested on the anvil of law or anvil of reasonableness, they just falter and fail. I'm sorry, Mr. Pradhan, what you've said is not acceptable to the students of India.
Okay. Not just NEET, Mr. Thankar, but we've seen many other examinations across the country, be it under Congress-ruled governments, like in Rajasthan. There also the BJP had made this into a political issue, or in other states as well, where even the BJP is in power. We've seen various controversies over examinations. Is it time to end this once and for all? Would you urge the union government to bring in perhaps a law in Parliament, to deal with paper leaks, to deal with examination leaks, and would it have then bipartisan support?
I completely endorse what you're saying. I mean, this is an initiative which would be welcomed by crores of young people who are looking for a career through examination. And it doesn't matter which party is in power. If Rajasthan has a Congress government and this happens, I'm not going to defend that. If Odisha had a Biju Patnaik government earlier and they did it, I won't defend that. If Mamta Didi's government does this, I would not defend that. I say this is a wrong, it's a public wrong. And the public wrong has to be treated as a public wrong and people have to be punished. And number 2, law is one part. You bring a law. But what do you with people? People who indulge in these actions. You are putting people in place who don't deserve to be in those places. So, and then you blame the system. So main thing is to have a transparent way of appointing these people who head these NTAs and other commissions so that people have trust in these bodies.
Okay. As far as now this matter is concerned, the Supreme Court, of course, for now, as we said earlier, has ordered, of course, a re-examination for 1,563 students, and grace marks will be dropped. That's something that the NTA had agreed to. What should be the immediate next steps? What would you expect in the next hearing of this case? Because the court is still seized of the matter.
I believe the matter will be now taken up on 8th of July.
Yes.
That's the date when the court reopens, the first day after court reopens. If I was a responsible government who would like to have the trust of the young people of India, I would quickly finish an impartial, fair, transparent investigation in 8-10 days, make that report public. If the magnitude is huge, cancel the exam, do a re-exam. If you can segregate and separate the bad from the good, and the good is big enough to be taken forward, then go forward with these examinations, do your counseling and finish off. Because ultimately, these students have worked very hard. They have worked for years. Most of them are from middle class family, lower middle class family. For them, it's a dream come true. And if we don't see that, and we continue with what we are doing these days by disappointing them and putting them under depression, I think we are doing a great disservice to this nation.
All right, Vivek Tankha, Senior Congress Leader and Rajya Sabha MP, thank you very much for joining us. Let me also draw in Dr. M.C. Mishra now, former Director AIMS, who's joining us live on the broadcast. Dr. Mishra, your first reaction to the Supreme Court hearing today and the order that came out as well from the Apex Court, is it enough? Dr. Mishra, can you hear me? Okay, I think we are having some technical trouble there with his connection. Let me also bring in Padma Shri Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman Nephron Clinic. Dr. Bagai, if you are able to hear me, what do you make of the Supreme Court's order today and the way the hearing panned out?
Good evening, Vineet. I think the entire episode which has panned out was highly unfortunate and mostly avoidable. I think it is a certain amount of suspicion and doubt which has been created for a variety of reasons. I won't go into the reasons, whether it's grace marks or it's extra time given, or 67 students have got a near perfect 720 or a 720 score and so on. But we need to look at a larger genesis of what is happening with NEET. There are far too many students, more than 25 lakh students who are vying for about 50,000 odd seats of medical MBBS as an undergraduate course under NEET. The total number of MBBS seats is about 1 lakh. The chance of a student getting in overall is approximately 1 in 50. And if you remove the OBC and the different kinds of quotas and the different kinds of reservations, really the open merit students stand a very, very slim chance. And I don't think that is fair. I think we need to correct the system. So just allow me a couple of minutes so that I can actually put forward my point of view. The process of children going into medicine is now handing over small little children as literally commodities and hand grenades into the hands of the coaching classes. And this begins from class 9 onwards. Class 9, class 10, class 11, class 12, and then it's all coaching, and it's the NEET entrance exams and then the further entrance exams in regional medical colleges, private medical colleges. Please appreciate where I'm coming from is that a child who's from 16, 17 onwards is being put into a pressure cooker situation, and the mental health of a child, boy or a girl, is a hugely vulnerable issue. We are not looking after the stress level of these kids. These children are trying the first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, and then they get to know that there is perhaps a paper leak or there is grace marks in certain areas. But the process needs to be corrected. I think we need to make the school as 11th and 12th relevant. Otherwise, we are running down our own educational system. How can we make it relevant? Give 25% weightage to marks of class 11, 25% weightage to marks of class 12, and 50% on the NEET exam. You cannot have a complete future of a child decided on one day, one exam for a few hours, and God forbid that exam for any reason, a natural event, doesn't go that well, the child's future is in jeopardy. Secondly is we need to look at the process of NEET exams. It's more on mugging, it's more on memory, it's practically no understanding. The relevance of the syllabus of botany, zoology, it has nothing to do with MBBS at all. We need to address these core issues of correcting the syllabus, correcting the way the NEET exam itself is run, making sure that the holistic performance of a child is gauged, 11th and 12th, make it relevant. Otherwise, we are actually crumbling our school educational system. Last, most importantly, is MCQs is not life. Grades and marks is not life. And there should be no reservations and capitation as far as medical college seats are concerned. Over to you.
Okay, let me in fact take that to Dr. M.C. Mishra as well, who I believe has joined us now. Dr. Mishra, I was trying to get you in earlier as well on this big hearing today that, of course, concluded in the Supreme Court. The matter, though, is still underway in the court. There will be another hearing as well. But for now, the big order, of course, scrapping grace marks, giving an option of a retest for those 1,563 students. Your take on how the matter has progressed so far?
Thank you very much for keeping this debate. If you ask me, the NTA has messed up everything by awarding grace marks in the first go. In competitive examination, such grace marks are not given or not done. Even in other examinations, we don't do that. So least in competitive examination. Once that was done, they were trying to justify that. Once it was picked up, and they were trying to justify. And then other problems also cropped up, that the paper leak and one center getting so many students, 100% marks, etc., etc. Now, if we look at today's Supreme Court observations, directions, orders, I actually do not approve of that also, that you conduct for select group of students another exam, and we don't know what number of students were given grace marks. Nobody knows that. So that is also opaque. It is not transparent. So the best thing for NTA would be to put at rest all controversies, is, as the students are also demanding, it's a very popular demand across India by the students, that we do retake the NEET in toto this time, and then for future alter this exam in some form like the IIT entrance examination, that you do prelims, because you practically cannot assess 24 lakhs of students for 1 lakh of seats or whatever, even if it is 2 lakh seats. It's just not possible. It's impossible to assess these students. And in India, we haven't found a better method of admissions in professional colleges because of the sheer number. Basically, the number is far too much. The seats are very limited. So that problem is always going to be a bother. And to do that, the best thing was this exam, whether it's a recall memory exam, where you mug up, as Dr. Sanjeev Bagai was saying, and then recall that memory and do that. Now, on top of that, the coaching mafias, as we call them, and all that also play some part in all these unfair means. So I think put together everything, the NTA would do good to them to establish their credibility. They must investigate all the complaints of unfair means, the paper leak, also the center thing separately, and then do the Re-NEET either mid-July, end July. Even if the admissions get delayed or by 1 month or so, heavens will not fall down, and it has been done in the past. So I think for everyone's good, and I think it will be better that at least the students should have the feel that they had a fair chance of competing. Naturally, 23 lakhs will not get admission, only 1 lakh will get admission, that too 60,000 in government and rest them in private. So I think that is something least the NTA can do. And I think that is high time that ministry should take this call immediately. Don't let this go out of proportion, because in India, everything gets politicized very quickly. And this problem is also getting politicized very, very rapidly. And I think this is not good for the government of the day at the center, and also NTA. I think NTA, for its credibility, must accept. They have accepted already. The grace marks have been scrapped. and Supreme Court has agreed with that, but don't conduct this selective 1563 who approach the Supreme Court through lawyers. They are from coaching centers, they can afford, but what about the other vast majority who cannot afford an expensive lawyer to appear in the Supreme Court? It's not very easy to approach Supreme Court, as we know. It is the money which plays part in Supreme Court cases also, because the lawyers have to be paid heavily for any kind of a petition if we want to file, and it may not get heard immediately. So there are a lot of permutation combination, but I think Supreme Court also should give a rethinking on it, that ordering re-examination is not a good idea at all. It will create more problem than solve the problem, and counseling can be delayed easily. So I think NTA should find a via media, and from next year onwards do that on the pattern of IITs, that preliminary exam to eliminate vast majority of them. And I think today competitive examinations are basically is the process of elimination. It is not process of selection. So let's not consider that and every student feels that he did well and he did not score well. So let the examination be at least fair, so these students at least get this satisfaction that we worked hard, we took our chance, we didn't get it in one go, two go, three go. I've seen people appearing for consecutive 4 years and then getting admission into a course, MBBS course or post-graduation. So I think that is something the least the NTA can do, that they should actually, it should come from them that we can conduct, if that is so desired by vast majority of students, we are ready to conduct the NEET again, and that will put all these controversies at rest, and simultaneously let the CBI or whatever agency can be given charge of investigating the copying thing. Because what I learned that the cases which have FIR which have been filed in Patna about copying or the paper leak are still active. They have not been, final word has not been said. So how somebody in the government can say that there was no paper leak? It's just not possible. And why one should say that?
So what do you expect next in this case, Dr. Bagai? Do you believe a Re-NEET should be done? Is that practically feasible? Do you believe an inquiry is needed now, a CBI inquiry or a court-monitored inquiry, perhaps an SIT as well? What should happen next?
So two parts to it, Vineet. One is what should be done in ideal setting, and the second is what is likely to happen. What should be done is that this entire process needs to be redone. That means this NEET exam has to be taken in totality again. If one student has complained, that means there is a suspicion. There has to be equal playing field for all students. So you can't have a re-exam only for 1,500 odd out of 25 lakhs. Point number two is, obviously, we need a very fair and independent inquiry. If the inquiry gives a clean sheet to the system, fair enough. But if the inquiry finds someone as being guilty of doing fraud or in copying or in leaking the paper, punitive punishment, such exemplary punishment that that guy never in his life even dreams of doing this wrong. Now, what ideally should be done henceforth is correct the system of the examination. There is far too much of emphasis given on one day, few hours to decide the career and life of a child for the next 50, 60 years. That is wrong. Medicine is not MCQs. Medicine is not just memorizing. It's an aptitude of a child. We have to learn to understand that we have to give due importance to the last phase of the schooling. We've seen enough amount of children who don't even now go to school because they are in coaching classes. It's a complete bottleneck of a mafia of the coaching classes. And let me tell you, coaching classes don't come cheap either. So it's a vicious money circle. And then ultimately these students become so mentally stressed into the hands of capitation colleges. We don't want our child becoming potatoes. We want good children becoming good doctors with good value system. If the entire system is going to be rotten with this kind of obstacles, it's not arguing well for the next generations of doctors in India.
Dr. Mishra, what would be a practical solution according to you? Do you believe a re-NEET is possible, feasible,
I think re-NEET
or
should be
not? And
serious.
also, what kind of inquiry would you expect now? As you're saying,
I
it's too
think-
early to say whether the leak happened or not.
Yeah, I think Re-NEET is the minimum NTA should be advising to the government on their own to come clean out of all this mess. And from next year onwards, they must find a better system on the pattern of IITs, engineering, that preliminary, so that you are left with 3 lakh, 4 lakh students for the final thing. And then that will be much better to handle. Also explore the possibility of a online examination rather than this paper thing, which has also created a lot of complaints. So somebody coming from Hindi medium was given an English paper and all that. Such complaints have also surfaced. Plus, this 1563 number is very magical number. Somebody told me that every center has 2,000 students taking exam at that particular day or time. And out of that, how they have figured out 1563 students lost time and all that, it's very arbitrary, it's very subjective, and I think that has created a lot of heartburn. And then they, on the top of it, कहते हैं ना जले पे नमक छिड़कना, फिर उसमें कह दिया ग्रेस मार्क्स दे दिए उनको. So either you remove those grace marks and then consider them as it is, wherever they come in merit, don't conduct any examination for any student. But now since Supreme Court is in between, so they also must give a serious thought to this problem rather than just passing a order that re-examination. Because re-examination will not be a solution to vast majority of the students. They are already having a lot of heartburn and they feel injustice is being done to them by ordering re-examination for a select group of students. So I think the best thing for everybody would be NTA, the government and the students would be to do the Re-NEET again. Even if the session gets delayed by 1 month, 1.5 months, 2 months, heavens will not fall down. And then from next year, you start preparing from now that what type of system you want to evolve, like 24 lakhs, you should do these prelims and then go for the small number, the final exam.
All right. Your final word, Dr. Bagai, because, it's not just this particular examination. We've seen multiple examinations across the country which are running into controversy. Some have been leaked. Some, of course, also there were allegations of a nexus between the coaching centers and certain other students. So clearly, perhaps a complete overhaul is needed.
I couldn't agree with you more, Vineet. I think the bottom line is the mental health of adolescents. I think we are putting them into too much of anxiety, too much of stress, too much of uncertainty, and they don't know which way their careers are going. Multiple attempts to just get into medicine. Medicine itself is 5.5 years plus 3 years plus 3 years. By the time you finish your post-graduation and specialization, you're nearing 30 years of age. That is in case you get your first attempts all the way through and you do exceedingly well, which these days becoming more and more a rarity. On top of that, if you have to do fellowships or super specialization training, why are we going to be subjecting children at such a young age to so much of stress? Let the system improve. There are ways to improve the system. There are ways in which the exam can be conducted in a much better manner. And henceforth, from next year onwards, I think we need a neater, cleaner, more transparent system.
All right.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.